And another thing that he was involved with, and I'll show you one more thing, okay? Have one more thing. If you read through his bio, which you'll find that he was those students that he had when he started teaching class there for Pacific Crafts out there in California. Those people became just, an avid group. You know how leather workers are. We like to hang around other leather workers and get our heads together and see what we can learn from one another. He got those folks together, and Dick McGann said, maybe it'd be good if there was something like a guild or something like that. And you know what? The very first leather guild was started in California, and it was called the Leather Guild. In fact, that was they were the first ones, and so it was called the Leather Guild. And they had a magazine or a newsletter that came out called the Leathercrat, and it was printed and done by Craftool company, and you can see here. What I have right here in front of me is Volume 1, Number 1. This is their very first issue of that. They were phenomenal. They really were. Their pattern. They had like these kind of full blown patterns in them. This here, well, you can see here. What does it say here? Copyrighted 1950. I don't know if you can see that there. So they were. This is when they were starting out there, 1950. Wow. And if you look on here, the board of directors, one of the people on there was a guy by the name of Lewis Roth, Jim Jick, Dick McGann. These are the people that founded this. In fact, Lou Ross was the vice president of the guild, but just an amazing. And over there's a. I'll get it closer here. Maybe you can see this a little bit better. But if you look here on this
show committee, Al Stolman there at the bottom.
Yeah, if you look at the hobby show committee, there's a guy by the name of Al Stolman that was involved with that. So all of the great leatherworkers, Al Shelton, Ken Griffin, all these folks were all part of that guild when it first started, and for many, many, many years, it was the only guild. Somewhere I've got a membership roster of that guild, and they literally were from all over the country, actually from all over the world, because it was the first one that was ever created. So this guy we're talking about, Lou Roth, oh my gosh, did he leave some gigantic footprints behind or what? If you in one of those articles in the magazine, it speaks about how cool his office was, and it says that his office, he had this picture of a horse carved by Al Stolman hanging on a great big picture of this horse done by Al Stolman, and then he had another piece that was hanging on his wall, and it was it was a great big like picture carving letter type thing done by Ken Griffin. And if you go look at some of the other conversations we've had here,
I remember
talked about this piece right here. This here piece once hung on the wall of Lou Roth.
What? Wow.
So you're looking at just a huge piece of the history of this craft.
Yes,
here this evening, and people that left some gigantic fingerprints all over it.
It's funny because prior to this, I really hadn't heard of Lou Roth. I've heard him, some old timers, not like you, not a young guy like yourself. You're not an old timer, but some other old timers. I've heard them talk, mention Lou Roth, but I didn't really know much about him because I see all these, these books by Al Stolman and Ken Griffin and all these other people who have written books on the craft or provided some, patterns and things like that are attached to. But hearing about Lou Roth really kind of makes it so much more apparent that it was a very, very close-knit group of individuals in the very beginning that got together to help popularize leathercrafting world. And I think that's pretty awesome and pretty significant how it all comes full circle. And now we're talking about the piece that we talked about in the previous studio session.
Yeah, it was a small world, and it was we're talking about some of those people who, through their own grit and determination, popularized this craft and made it what it is today. It is an industry unto itself today, but you're talking to people here who were trying to convince people that you could do this stuff with leather. It's just an amazing story, and we have much to be grateful to these pioneers of this craft that their innovation, their creativity, and their persistence. We get to benefit from that today, and it's real easy for today's generation of leather workers to maybe just not fully appreciate all that has gone on with this craft to bring it to where we have it today, where we have the privilege of enjoying this great craft the way we do today. So, anyway,
that's pretty amazing, and it's incredible to see. Hey, look at this old magazine that I have from 1960, and then this picture of tools in it, and then here, guess what? Here's the tools. It's like you're pulling it off the page, Jim. The things that you, it's pretty awesome to see because you having this collection of Leathercraft memorabilia and history. That not just your teaching of classes, but the fact that sharing all this stuff, we really greatly appreciate it because you're also helping promote the wonderful, rich history and heritage of Leathercraft.
Well, one of these days, somebody's got to come along and fill my shoes, and I hope it's somebody that's listening to this evening.
Well,
so
anyway. We will do our best.
That's what I have about. That's what I have about Lou Roth. He left some gigantic fingerprints. I could probably rummage through and find some more patterns that he did and so forth. But he was just one of those fellas that he wasn't in the limelight. I mean, in fact, early on in the formation of the Craftaid company, they realized that we need to get this young up and comer, this Al Stolman kid. We need to get him involved. Kid, I say, but he obviously somebody with some great gifts, and they got him in there. He was a co-owner of Craftaid, and I don't know that people realize that either.
Well, I mean, it makes sense since he helped provide so many patterns.
That picture that's up there on the screen right now is an example of what it was like in the early days. I don't remember exactly where that was taken from, but they would have these get-togethers. In fact, the very first things like I guess a leather show like we have now, they happened out in California. They were exhibitions, and they brought people together. They did these demos. They showed people what leatherwork was, and it was a new thing, And again, I think I've mentioned that before, but back in those days, if you'd have turned on the television in the late 50s and 60s, what you'd have seen? You'd have seen all kinds of westerns. That's what was coming out of Hollywood in those days. And you know what? All those guys used. They all had gun belts, and they had boots on, and they were, leather was just part of what identified them. And you know what? Here along comes this new craft where you could do that too. You could make these same things, and oh my goodness, timing is everything. It was just a great time, and here's some of the things that launched that craft. So
that's great. Well, thanks again for sharing all this and taking the time to do it. And I share your call that's hopefully somebody listening will take that mantle and continue on with the preservation of Leathercraft and keep promoting it. So all right, well, I guess that kind of wraps it up on Lou Roth. I am leaving here a lot more educated and a lot more appreciative of the fact when I go to tool something and I have and I have a Craftaid for a pattern that I like, because I've traced my own patterns, I've done that, and it is time consuming. So I think on behalf of crafters and makers everywhere, Lou Roth definitely brought a lot to the Leathercraft world in terms of convenience and just ease of use, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So
well, again, my privilege to share that. So until next time.
All right, Jim, it's good to see you.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.